everyone, how you doing? Hope you're keeping well. I have been doing some maths. Shocking. And I've realised that we're about halfway through. By which what I means is that I've got, I wrote it down here. What have I got? 41 issues left here before we catch up with the beginning of this issue, of where I started this series in the 90s. So we've got 41 episodes left, which means we've done about 42, I think, so slightly over halfway. Anyway, that'll keep us going for another 3 years, so not urgent that we're abandoning this, but no, it's a milestone, so it's nice to mark it. But anyway, let's carry on with our vintage White Dwarf collection. Here we go then. Here's my lovely table that's covered in metal swarf for Platkin miniatures for Salute. But we're not going to ignore that, and we're going to look at White Dwarf 88. This is April 1987. Here we have the advert for the Balrog encounter at Khazad-dûm, that wonderful set. I was going to go and grab mine, but it's in the case over there. I have this Balrog and co ready to go. Going to make a diorama out of it. Mine doesn't have any wings, but that's okay because Balrogs don't have wings. Very firmly of that of that way of thinking. You can disagree with me if you like. Mike Brunton was suggesting here that April, the traditional silly season for magazine editorials, is there going to be some rubbish in White Dwarf this issue? Well, no, they're not going to do any of that. Definitely not going to tell you that White Dwarf staff are pixies, that certain major companies are front for the CIA. No, he's just going to tell you that that in this issue of White Dwarf, there's a special competition. Spot the number of typographical errors with letters being swapped around. Count them up, and if the total is the same as the issue number on the cover of your White Dwarf, you could win this month's surprise star prize. Well, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. Here we have an open box review of Chainsaw Warrior, the solo board game from Games Workshop with a cool range of minis, including the Chaos Cultist, which I wish I hadn't traded away because he'd be great for my Disciples of the Red Redemption. Never mind. We have the wonderful Elven Attack Chariot also being released this month. I'm skipping through the review pages. Probably the review pages are actually the more interesting thing to read through, but I tend to skip them because of time. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should spend proper time. Those in the letters pages, I bet there's some hilarious letters in each issue. Here we have Thrud the Barbarian being headhunted for a replacement player in a Blood Bowl competition. Thrud obviously being very good at Blood Bowl, or at least at Blood anyway. Here's a Cthulhu adventure. I don't need to say any more than that, right? Here's a Cthulhu adventure. Yes, just a short little one here that follows on from the outcome of the investigations of last month's zombie adventure. Revenue Hordes release, and here's another follow-up. So we've had previously a day in the life of Sector 255. Now we've got a night in the death of Sector 255. So this is a Judge Dredd scenario, and along with the previous Judge Dredd scenario, which was just a list of events that are happening for the judges to get involved with, this is also just a list of events of happenings for the judges to get involved with, but with an overarching plot line which hinges around this guy here, Sergeant Peppard and his lunatic homicidal crazies brigade. Yes, definitely a Beatles reference there. Yes, because this sector overnight is hit with a flurry of lemming syndrome. Citizens leaping to their deaths from buildings left, right, and centre. What's behind it? It's down to the judges to find out what could possibly be going on. Fate points, an exploration of how they're used and what they do in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. A way of keeping you from dying, largely, which makes sense because you don't want your main characters snuffing it, especially when they're as expendable, as flimsy as Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay characters frequently are when they start off. They should have a second chance to do it a slightly different way, especially if they follow the old adage of wading into combat, trying to D&D woofrups. Doesn't work very well. Here's some extra stuff for that Chainsaw Warrior board game. I believe that all of these cards that were in here have been removed and used, not for me, not for my copy of Chainsaw Warrior, but there's a rundown of what they do anyway. So if they were in here, you could use them. Here's a RuneQuest adventure, When Mad Gods Laugh. This is the adventurers being asked to find out why some younger members of a troop of nomads are mysteriously disappearing and seen wandering off into the distance in search of music that apparently only they can hear. And yes, it is panpipes belonging to this chappie here. And when the players follow them, they find a hippie commune underway. But of course, as with all hippie communes, there's something a bit more sinister lying underneath them. Here's an army list for Warhammer, based on the Ravening Hordes army list, but slightly different. Ravening Hordes being out this month. A lot of these Kev Adams, definitely Kev Adams, machineries of destruction. Interesting seeing them all put together, because it makes me think that all of these are Kev Adams figures, but some of these are definitely the models from the Goblinoids combat cards deck, and I had thought that all of the models in that deck were painted by Fraser Gray using his excellent enamel technique, but it would appear that some of them are in fact Kev Adams paint jobs as well. They're just as equally brilliant, so I couldn't distinguish them. Some more stuff on assassins. We've looked at assassins and ninjas in various ways, shapes and forms, but this is looking particularly at assassins in AD&D, and it's looking at assassins in a non-evil capacity. So normally we assume that people who are paid to do other people in are evil, or at least, well, not even chaotic, just evil. But in fact, this is talking about other uses for assassin's skills, so espionage and agitation, and thieving and information finding, those kinds of things, which would use a suitable skill set for an assassin character, but not necessarily require them to be cold-blooded killers, only out to line their purses. Here we have another gobbledygook adventure. A little bit of an acrostic poem for gobbledygook there, goblins in all shapes and sizes. Here's some more Judge Dredd and some more Blood Bowl, but it's a Blood Bowl Judge Dredd crossover. If you want to play a Judge's team versus a Fatty's team in Blood Bowl, now you can, with the help of these clever little cutouts and the rules therefore. The Snotling Pump Wagon makes its first iconic appearance. At this time, the Pump Wagon had 1 or 2 decks, so the standard Pump Wagon there for £2.50. The 2-level Snotling Pump Wagon, £5, reasonably expensive for the time, but you do get 10 wonderful Snotlings and this beautiful machine of engine and death. It's interesting. I'm going to do some maths here, but Oh, okay. It's because so is it like the basic wagon is £2.50, the complete wagon is £5. The expansion set, which turns it from the basic to the complete pump wagon, is £1.95. So that would make it £4.45. So where's the other 55p? But the other 55p is the other 5 snotlings, because you only get 5. No, 6. 2 crew plus 10 run. Yeah, so the 45p is 6 additional snotlings. That's where that is. That's where that difference in price is. Martin McKenna's illustrations. Very obviously Cthulhu illustrations there, aren't they? Most of them from Green and Pleasant Land. Here is that letters page. Apparently, for some reason, Shelia from Norwalk, California, sent them a bunch of very small dollars. Interesting. Anyone know Shelia from Norwalk, California? Want to explain what the hell these tiny little dollars were supposed to be about? It's a mystery to everybody. There we go. A quick flick through. A rogue trooper on the back. The notoriously long-winded board game version of the 2000 AD comic strip. A very quick flip through of White Dwarf 88 there. Onwards 5 years to White Dwarf 148. April 1992. No such April Fool's editorials in this edition. Did you spot all the typos in the previous edition? Of course you did. We flipped through it so fast you couldn't have missed them. We've got the Empire on the cover here, as we're mid talking about the Empire Army release that came out in last month's issue, along with all of Perry's wonderful new sculpts for it, and that move towards the 4th edition rule set. We've got D-Rock's Oblivion 92 tour. Nice to see that on the 18th of March, which would have been before this came out, if this came out in April, although I think probably it came out in March. I remember that they used to bring out the month's editions a couple of weeks beforehand, I think, so in the middle of the previous month. I think I remember that being the case anyway. March the 18th they were at the Fleece and Firkin near me in Bristol. Yeah, I probably wouldn't have gone and seen them even back then. Not my kind of cup of tea, really. Adrian Wild discusses modelling rivers, and it's interesting that the rivers that he's talking about here, with this bridge and the meander and the all the pictures, yes, and the reedy banks there. These were in White Dwarf photos for years afterwards. At least 5 years beyond this, when the early sort of 190s issues that when I first started collecting, still these river sections were turning up. They're kind of making their way out by the time we get to the 200s that we're looking through at the moment in the latter series of videos, but they've done well. They were in ready view of all collectors for a very long time, and the How to Make Miniature Wargames terrain book featured them as well. I hadn't realised that they were Adrian Wild's constructions and that they dated back quite this far, but there you go, the the studio rivers in production, painted and gloss varnished. Here's some more of Adrian Wild's lovely work, some of his great painting there on the Empire foot soldiers, and his various Space Marine types. Very beautiful colours there. Demons and Chaos War Machines for Space Marine. So Zinch Horrors and Flamers, Bloodletters of Khorne, Fleshhounds of Khorne, Beasts of Nurgle, Plague Bearers of Nurgle, Fiends and Demonettes of Slaanesh, and their various cards for use in the then Epic system, along with some photos of them. These demons, some of the nicest Epic figures to come out, I think. I'm not a big fan of the very cartoony looking overblown cannons and things. It's a bit like the Man of War. They sort of really exaggerated some features on the small scale, and I'm not a big fan. But these These guys, they're cool. I just have them as familiars in regular Warhammer, I think. Here are some of those demon engines. And the Lord of Battles, I think it's a very silly looking thing, but people like it. People like the big cow head guy. Some more Marauder Dwarfs. Classic Marauder Dwarves. Lovely Marauder Dwarves there. And shields. The Chaos Shield's probably not so appropriate, but here's the Dwarf and Fighter shields for them. There's that lovely Raven Armory Slayer sword. Is this the one that notoriously was actually quite sharp, and that when the guy, whoever it was, won the Slayer sword contest, he sort of gripped it in both hands and held it aloft, and was then aware that he had blood running down his arms because he'd actually cut himself on the blade of the sword, so they had to make it blunt after that. I think I remember reading. I'm not sure if it was this one. This is 92, so it's been going for 5 years at this point. I think it was possibly one of the earlier ones, and a Raven Armory. Do they still make it? Do they still exist? I don't know. They made it for a long time, certainly into the late 90s, early 2000s when I was going along. Raven Armory were making it. Here's what was going on at the NEC Pavilion. Bit smaller than the NEC game days turned into, but nevertheless an expansion on the old assembly rooms. Here's a Warhammer Fantasy battle report. Sorry, was lost in thought there. Warhammer Fantasy battle report from Nigel Stillman and Andy Chambers, featuring the Perry's Empire Army. There we go, the Perry's Empire Army. Interestingly, with a Karl Franz model, but Karl Franz on a Pegasus rather than on the Griffin, which is what he was released with later on. I can't quite see from the photos. Maybe there are some bigger photos later on. There's definitely a closer up photo of him. There he is. Yes, it's a different model. So it's just an Empire hero at the moment. It's not even the Karl Franz rider on Deathclaw. So just an Empire hero on Pegasus. I think that might be a Marauder Pegasus even. Standing in for the Emperor there, along with the host of troops, and then Mike McVeigh's Wood Elves and Wayne England's Dwarves there, teaming up in an unlikely alliance to repel the Imperial invasion. There's these colourful computer maps that help us to see very easily what's going on, what's moving where, and then the after the fact staged photographs that kind of closely approximate the maps, but give you more of a sense of the battle than what's actually going on. It's an interesting piece of scenery, that one. Have we got another photo of that? I'm trying to see what those steps lead up to. I don't recognise it. No, it doesn't seem to be another photo of it. There's the classic barn and the townhouses there. There's again the townhouses and the barn. Nothing there. Just woods there. And then this steps up to this. I don't recognise this piece of terrain from any of the studio collection, but there doesn't seem to be another photograph of it. So it's a mystery. Anyone place it? Anyone recognise where these steps go up to? It's not the mausoleum. Don't know. Mausoleum. That's strange. Mausoleum sounds like a type of carpet, doesn't it? Mausoleum. The Chaos Roadshow on the road. A brand new paint set. The metallic paint set is released. And this is the kind of thing that you can do with it. All of these have got bits of metallic dotted around on them just to prove how nice it can look. And then we're into catalogue pages. So there are those silly demon engines, along with the really nice little demons. Reiksguard Knights, Reiksguard Knights, however you say it. A range of plastic horses available at this time. Kislevites. The former Melnibonéan cavalry there, listed as just elven cavalry, so not really high elf, not really wood elf. These guys definitely more wood elf, but the Melnibonéans with their demonic faceplates that wouldn't make it into the high elf range despite the pointed helms going that way. Here are the war dancers. So again, I could run through the ones that I've got, the ones I haven't got. So I still haven't got this guy. Not really interested in that guy or that guy. They look a bit useless. Sort of lanky hangers around at the back. Haven't got this guy with the mask. I've got the other one that's like that. That guy. Haven't got this guy with the mask. Haven't got this guy with the big sword. So those three guys. But I've got so many war dancers, I can't field them legally in a 3rd edition, 4th edition, or 5th edition. There you go. This guy's funny as well. This guy with his floppy hat. He reminds me of an Elric character as well, with his floppy hat with a feather in. Doesn't really scream wood elf to me, but it's interesting. So those peri-imperial dwarfs, as distinct from the marauder dwarfs that we saw earlier. Also beautiful dwarfs though, don't get me wrong, love me a peri dwarf. And then here is an epic conflict, starring of course the demon engines and the various demons of chaos fighting against an Eldar host with their phantom titan in the metallic colours. Here we go, a quick rundown. Issues 148 and issues 88. Join me next week when we shall be taking a look at the chunkier issue 208, which promises to be an epic. See you then.